Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
It smells like bliss, earth bliss in the studio. Hey, are we running a rerun? What's going on? Hey, Dr. Shealy.
Yes.
It smells like earth bliss in the studio. I wonder why.
Well, you must have picked up the wrong bottle.
Well, Dr. Shealy, you suggested that I use Earth Bliss, and here I am using Earth Bliss and Air Bliss, and it's great, absolutely great. So I just want to let you know that I'm following your directions to the letter.
Well, thank you, and always delighted to be with you. Your phone's working out there. Out at Our Farm, they're not.
Oh, wow. You know, have you had this massive flooding out your way? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Roads are washed out. Our son's been trying to get to us for about a week, and he's about 100 miles away, and Interstate 44 was washed out. Actually, part of it was submerged. The back roads, some of those are washed out. Our road leading to the house, the dirt road that we have, was washed out. And we have a fence that runs across our creek, and the water was so voluminous that it washed our fence. It literally took the barbed wire fence and the post, the metal post in the ground, and it ripped it out, broke the barbed wire, and ran it across the road, so that if anyone tried to get across the road, they really couldn't, because entangled in the barbed wire that stretched across the road were tree limbs and other debris. So we cleaned all that up. But yeah, it was kind of a mess. And the water was so great. The water was probably running, I don't know, almost over a foot, maybe close to 2 feet deep. And so we were out with boots on and trying to not get washed downstream while we're pulling this debris out of the road. But that's what country living's like, Dr. Shealy, right? That's
you bet. Like. I'll still take it over the city.
Absolutely. Well, and here's a question that maybe we should talk about. I mentioned to the family that while we were having this flooding, that those who live in the city, their water supply could be compromised. So, for example,
their water supply is already compromised. City utilities poison them every day.
Yes, and even more. And here's why. Because typically the sewage treatment plant is at the low area, because when you flush something down the toilet or when you pour something down the drain, it runs downhill. It doesn't usually get pumped. It runs downhill to the lowest point in your village. And that lowest point is where the sewage treatment plant is. Now, also running downhill is the rainwater and the streams and everything else, which can flood and overflow the sewage treatment plant. So that when that happens, then that raw sewage and in process for treatment sewage gets spread around. And then where's that go? That goes further downhill and into the groundwater. So if you have a well, you may experience some additional contamination, in addition to the things that people keep in their garages, like, insecticides and Roundup and poisons of all kinds, and rat poison and mouse poison, and gasoline for their lawnmowers, and, their lawnmowers that go floating downstream, those kind of things. So all that gets mixed into a soup, and it ends up into our water supply. And so just a thought, and if you don't have a water filtration system of some kind, I suggest you consider getting one. That's just my thoughts. Dr. Shealy, do you want to share anything on your thoughts with that? I'm sure you've seen these kind of things, images and real-life experiences as well.
Well, it has been known for many decades that rats living in a crowded community die and have illnesses much more than rats who've got sort of an open field, so to speak. Well, in general, the death rate in every significant size city, with, let's say, 500,000 or above, is greater than in much smaller towns. So it's a combination of total contamination in civilization, so-called. And I grew up in a little town of 5,000 people, off and on out to a farm 3 miles away, and I've never been enthusiastic about living in a city. I've lived in St. Louis, I've lived in Boston, I've lived in Cleveland, and I don't want to live anywhere near that. I don't even want to live in Pleasant Hope.
And how many people live in Pleasant Hope, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, let me see. It must be 694 or something like that.
I knew Pleasant Hope was pretty small. I didn't realize it was 7 times larger than the village where I live.
I'm almost crowded. But I am 5 miles away.
Sometimes when people ask me where I live, I kind of tell them, and I say, before I left home, with Mrs. Finelli, there were 2% more people in our town before we left. And I really like living in the middle of nowhere. However, when you do that, you are responsible for your actions even more than if you don't. So, for example, if the road washes out, you can call somebody and wait forever, or you can take action into your own hands and run the risks of being arrested for repairing the road. So we just get our backhoe out and our tractors and we go and repair the road, and we don't make a big deal of it. And sometimes the neighbors are really appreciative if they see us, thinking, "Wow, we couldn't get out, but thanks for fixing the road so we can get out." And that's what we do. And we don't have a crew that goes and picks up the trash along the road when people drive down the dirt road and throw their cans and bottles and bags and wrappers out. We go and do it ourselves. And sometimes we get stopped by the locals, and they'll say, "What are you doing?" And we'll have a 5-gallon bucket in our hand and gloves, and we'll be picking up trash. And it's like, we're picking up the trash. Like, why are you doing that? Because someone's got to do it. And, a little bit of trash begets more trash. So you kind of nip it in the bud, and you make the trash stand out. When there's no trash, a little bit stands out, and people might be a little more reluctant. I mean, there's that, or we could start shooting them, and shooting the people who are throwing the trash out. But that's probably not a good idea. It may come to that. At some point, we may end up in the Wild West again and get sick of it, and there may be a shooting war. I'm not saying we would start it, but I'm saying people are, well, I guess when they get pushed to the limit, they do strange things. I'm not saying we would. I'm just saying it's annoying. It's annoying how offensive some people are. Just, what do they think they are? Just throwing their trash on our farm. And the cows, they look at these potato chip bags and wrappers, and they think it's food, and it can kill them. And I object to it. So that's why we pick up the trash. And I don't like them stepping on bottles and breaking glass bottles and cutting up their hoofs. And I don't know. I guess I hit my own button, Dr. Shealy, but we have become our own worst enemies. We have become insensitive to the rights of others, and we just trample them. And that was one of the things I wanted to mention to you today. I was reading an article about young people, and it says that teenagers lie and fight more when they spend more time on their smartphones. So there is a relationship, a correlation between smartphones and lying, and smartphones and fighting. And do you think it's frequency related, Dr. Shealy? Do you think it's attention related, Dr. Shealy, that they're flitting from thing to thing?
I think it is the result of social nonsense. In other words, the cell phones are turning the people obsessed with them into being totally socially obnoxious. I've said it for years. I call them dumb phones because they make you dumb. I think both intellectually and community-wise. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's turning them into barbarians. No respect for anybody except the blank little phone.
Mm-hmm. How about this? I was in Springfield a few days ago, and I was in the truck, and I pulled up to a traffic light, and I happened to be in a lane where if I looked, I was in the slow lane, and on Battlefield Road, and it's 2 lanes each direction, and there's a suicide lane at some points on Battlefield. So I was at a traffic light, and I looked to the left, and there was this woman who was driving, and as soon as her car came to a stop at the traffic light, to my left, immediately she's looking down on the phone. Immediately. I mean, instantly. And I thought, how often does this happen? It's like at every light, Dr. Shealy. It's not just her. It's every person almost every traffic light, except me. I'm the only guy looking around, looking at who's looking at their phones. I'm looking at all the vehicles, where they're going, trying to figure out if someone's going to ram into the back of me because they're not paying attention, noticing that I'm stopped and maybe they should stop and not run into me. I mean, I'm looking at those kind of things. That's how I was taught how to drive, to be a defensive driver, to pay attention to my surroundings. However, that is not what's happening with most people today. Most people are not paying attention. They're looking at their phones.
And you're lucky if they're not looking at their phones after they start driving.
Absolutely correct. So then I guess the next question, Dr. Shealy, is there a physical addiction? Is there a mental addiction? Is there something with these frequencies? Is there something with the need for more information? Is it loneliness? Can we draw a conclusion, a sound medical conclusion as to what might be driving the non-stop need, and I'm saying need, not want, I believe it's a need, to pay attention to these little computer screens and these handheld communicators where people are texting? Can we talk about that when we come back?
You bet.
Is there a bona fide thing going on in our bodies? Dr. Shealy, when I think of different countries, I look at what they do very well, and so when I think of Biafra or Bangladesh, I don't have such a real high regard for some of the creativity that they have there. I think they're primitive. When I look at Germany, I look at excellence. I look at excellence in attention, manufacturing, insight, design, industriousness. I think of wonderful things. And this all relates to the smartphones. There's a German company that has been installing lights along the curbs, and these are lights that light up red and yellow and green. And the reason they're along the curbs in the cities is because there are so many people in Germany who are looking down at their smartphones that they are not looking up, and they're getting run into by vehicles.
Well, it gets rid of one stupid person.
Well, but I'm not, Dr. Shealy, I am not exaggerating. This is true. There are lights along the sidewalks, red and yellow and green, so that those who are not paying attention, who are physically or mentally or chemically or biologically addicted to their phones, get run over with less frequency. Because they can see these, maybe out of their peripheral vision, they may be able to see these street lights on the curb. So the question really is back to this. Is it biological? Is it chemical? Is it emotional? Is it the need for companionship? Is it this pervasive loneliness that...
It is, quote, addiction. I just sent you an email on this. At least 4 of the following signs and symptoms comprise criteria for cell phone addiction. A need to use the cell phone more and more often to achieve the same effect. Persistent failed attempts to use the cell phone less often. Preoccupation with smartphone use turns to cell phone when experiencing unwanted feelings of anxiety and depression. Excessive use characterized by loss of sense of time has had a relationship or job at risk because of excessive cell phone use. Need for newest cell phone, more applications, increased use. Withdrawal from cell phone is when the cell phone is unreachable with anger, tension, depression, irritability, restlessness. Those are just some of them. Now, here's some of the other things. Pain and discomfort associated with viewing a digital screen for over 2 hours. Burning and itching of the eyes, blurred vision, eye fatigue, digital eye strain causing headaches, tight text neck, so neck pain. 1 in 6 cell phones has fecal matter on it. E. coli bacteria, which are, infectious agents particularly. In other words, the cell phone is about as contaminated as your toilet seat, among other things.
And how many people, and this happens to me, how many people are exposed to this? And that is, so you're talking with someone, and you're having a conversation, and that other person has a cell phone, pulls it out of his or her pocket, and says, "Look at this! Would you look at this picture? There's a picture I took. Here's a picture I took, and isn't this interesting? Isn't this cool?" It is so important that I interrupt whatever we were just talking about to show you this picture.
It is a 2-year-old
That's the kind of stuff that goes on, Dr. Shealy.
Ego. A 2-year-old child ego. It is unbelievable lack of responsible grown behavior.
When I was a young teenager, there was a camera, a used camera. It was $18. It was an Argus C3 camera, and it was at in a store where I could buy this used camera. I saved and bought, and ultimately bought this 35 millimeter camera, which is in the studio right behind me right today. And it used flash bulbs, and I had that camera for a long time, from all the way from the 60s. Still have it, and I learned how to develop film. But the point I'm trying to make is, not once in all the years from the 1960s through today have I ever taken a camera out and pointed it at my face and taken my picture. I've never done that. I have never taken a selfie. Class Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor, surgeon of the year, author of over 30 books, and he's got a practice in Springfield, Missouri with Dr. Sergey Sorin. And if you'd like to visit them, you may. Dr. Shealy, to get to talk with you in person, what does a person do?
Well, they can call 417 if they're outside the area of Springfield, 351-5221, or just 351-5221 if they're in the Springfield area. That's where we make appointments.
Okay. And may they request you and or Dr. Sergey Sorin? How does that work, Dr. Shealy?
No, they have a choice. They can get either one of us or both of us. We often do things together, and we also do telephone and Skype consultation.
And how does that work, Dr. Shealy? If a person, let's say, we've got listeners worldwide, but let's say someone on the eastern coast or the western coast would like to Skype with you and spend some time. How much time would they typically spend, and how would that work, and how would that be arranged?
Well, most of the time, we prefer an hour because I like to get in great detail. Even though we can't do a physical exam, we at least can cover all the bases. And, in fact, when we have a patient scheduled for a new appointment, they are sent out 4 separate test, written things to send back. So that we save another half hour of time on the phone just by reviewing those written things that give us a lot of information before we start. So all of that is arranged with a telephone consultation or for an office visit.
So if I've got this right, so someone would like to spend some time with you electronically. via Skype. You can see them. They can see you. You, I guess, email out a 4-page questionnaire, and then they respond back. You review that questionnaire. So now you have a mental picture of that person and that person's health. And going into it, you've got a jump start. So you're ready to be analyzing them very, very quickly. Do I have that right?
That is correct. And, this has been my pattern for 40-plus years. In other words, I want 1 hour of time with a new patient because I don't know how to get all the details that I need to make a very important decision without going into that kind of detail.
Mm-hmm. 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 And I can tell you, I've been in your clinic many times, and I'll see Dr. Sergey Sorin will walk by. I'll say, "Hey, Vincent, how's it going?" He'll spend a few minutes with me, even though he wasn't expecting me, even though he didn't know I was coming. He pays attention. He goes into the scaler room. He looks at everybody, talks at everybody, makes sure that he fully comprehends exactly what's happening, and you do the same thing. And so that's kind of it's a very interesting office. It is not the 7-minute visit that most people would typically experience in modern health treatment today. It's not the same. So I've been there.
Can't imagine
so, Dr. Shealy,
bad that
can you give
be.
us an yeah. And some people have very serious conditions, and 7 minutes is just not enough. Dr. Shealy, can you give us an update with the scalar technology?
Oh, I wish I could, Vance. Now, that is one of the most disgusting things in my life. Not what we did, but getting the results. I signed a contract with Missouri State University for one of their professors to do the measurement of adrenal measurement. It was signed. I paid half of the fee in advance. In the original contract, we were to get this done, and the report was going to get to us within 2 weeks of the end, which would have been by the end of March. One day after we finished the report in mid-March, I got a revised contract increasing the fee 50% and telling us that now we will not get the results until the end of May, if we're lucky. This is as bad as government bureaucracy at its worst. So I have the foggiest idea of when or whether we'll get the results. I will never do another research project with the university itself.
Wow. And so how do you change the terms and conditions of a contract that's agreed upon in writing? How do you do that?
Well, if you're big enough and
I've never done it.
I haven't either. And I can't imagine doing it. On the other hand, now I'm already, we've already done the project when they changed the contract. So I'm not going to go in a legal battle. That could take 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, warning, don't
Dr.
trust
Shealy,
any organization.
Okay. I agree with that. Dr. Shealy, I have a multi-page document in my hand. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't been in a good fight in years. And so I have been invited into the ring again by the State of Missouri Department of Revenue. So that's 1, 2, 5. I have a 5-page official document. And this thing says, this is the second time they've attacked us. The first time they've attacked us was for $100,000 in unpaid sales tax. Okay? And I proved to them that they had no basis, no grounds. And they backed off. So now, that was for 2 years, 2012 and 2013. They've decided that they need to come back. And now they're coming back. It's only for $1,000 this time. And they are claiming that we owe them, we only owe them $1,000. So they say. And it's for an assessment of unpaid sales and use tax. USAPrepares.com Limited Corporation. So I said to Mrs. Finelli, she handed me this document. We got this certified letter yesterday. And so she handed this to me, and I said, Let's just make sure one thing before I respond and let you know what my plan is. I just want to make sure that I am the only one on this corporation. Just me. Just me. Not our family, not our children, not our farm, just me. Because that determines how I'm going to respond. Well, it's just me. That means I'm coming out swinging. And so I have this document, and there are, let's see, it says I owe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, about 30 different taxes on 4 sales. 4, F-O-U-R. We had 4 sales out of state, and they want 30 different taxes. Actually, it's not even that. It's 30, 60. Between taxes, additions, penalties, interest, it's over 100 line items that they want to be paid for. And nowhere does it say what they are. It just says the amount, like $14.80, 62 cents, $4.93, 40 cents, 49 cents. It lists items like that, but it never says exactly what it's for. So I've decided that since they've done this, the only person I have met in the Department of Revenue is their senior counsel. So I've decided that since they're asking me for information, since they are, and I believe these are terroristic threats, and I wrote a letter saying that this is terrorism. They've decided that they are going to put a lien on my property. That's terrorism. And so the only person I know is the senior legal counsel. I met him because I drove out to Jefferson City to meet him. And I'm going to address all my correspondence to him. And I've decided that this week, probably on Friday, I will give out his name, phone number, and address of the senior legal counsel. So if you are in Missouri and you are being harassed and threatened and terrorized by the Department of Revenue for unfounded reasons, why don't you do what I do? Find one person. I only know one person, so I'll give you his name and phone number and address. And why don't you correspond with him? And here's what I'm asking. I want to know, who is it? Exactly who started this? What will they do with that information? I want to know the name, the address, the rank, the rate of compensation that person's being paid, their boss's boss, and their boss's boss's boss. I want to know what they're going to do with the information, and I want to know how they're going to use it against me. And I want it in writing. And I want all the documentation, everything that transpires will be in writing. And I am giving them a 14-day turnaround time, or I am declaring this moot and unfounded. So I'm saying you will respond to me in 14 days. And then at some point I'm going to say, if you need additional information, there's a fee for that. Just like you guys charge a fee, meaning the government, there's a fee. And how much is that fee? That fee is $100 per page. And my rate of compensation will be $1,000 per hour with a 10-hour minimum if they want to engage in commerce with me. That will be my rate of compensation, because nothing's free anymore with these guys. They are demanding revenue with a muzzle of their gun to my head. And this is systematic, Dr. Shealy. Now, we talked about this little hamlet that I live in at 100 people. I know for a fact from the United States Postal Service that I'm not the only one that got this certified mail. There are many of us, and we know how many. We know how many people got them. So if there are 10 people in our little hamlet that got these, and there are 100 people in the hamlet, this is a systematic attack on people looking for revenue without specifying why they are attacking us and what the origin is. They're just saying, pay this amount, pay this $1,000, and this will go away. Absolutely not. So what I'm saying, Dr. Shealy, is thank you for the medical counsel that you've given me to get me to the point where I am ready for this massive fight.
Oh, I love you, Ed. Let's face it, this is another all government is evil, some is more so.
Yes. Now the question is a medical question for Dr. Shealy when we come back. When I engage in this fight, what I do is I get all ramped up and I blast them, and then I'm okay until the next letter comes, and I blast them again, and then I'm okay. Is that okay, or am I hurting myself? I just think maybe the adrenaline rush might be a good thing in the short run. We'll be right back. Class Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, and we're talking about adrenaline, I guess. We're talking about adrenaline rushes. We're talking about getting into fights. And, when you get picked on, your adrenaline, you raise your adrenaline levels and you do what you have to do. But some people walk away from fights. Some people say, look, just $1,000. If I can just find $1,000, I can make these thugs go away. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. So, Dr. Shealy, do you think I'm doing damage to my physical body by engaging with the criminal, unconvicted criminal element that's trying to steal money from our family, or do you think it's okay to, when you're attacked, to respond and put these things to rest and then go on with your life? How do you feel about that, medically?
I think everything is important to deal with and not bury. That's number one. In other words, waiting for the hammer to drop is not a good idea. Mm-hmm. No matter what the problem is, you have to have some kind of active response, feeling, yay, I'm okay. I'm ready to fight this if I need to, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so everybody's different in how far they're willing to go or be pushed before they make that kind of stand. But mine is, I don't like to be pushed very, very far.
Right. Right, and I don't like, I'm not looking for fights, and I'm not saying, boy, I haven't had a fight in like 20 minutes. I'm not. It's not like that. I just want to live in peace. However, when the state is threatening to put a lien on our farm, which they have no right to,
and once that's done, then you're in a hell of a stew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my plan, the art of war by Sun Tzu is, and not let your enemy know what you're doing. My approach is a little different. My approach is the opposite. When I get involved in a situation like this, I let the other team know my plan. And my plan is very simple. I will make them famous. I will give out their name. I will give out their phone number. I will give out their address. I will make sure that they get credit for all the mischief that they have done. Because what they do is they single us out. They gang up on us. They pile up on us. They put the full force of their muzzle, their howitzers, their cannons, and their law enforcement. All of that. They put all that on top of us. And they gang up on us. And they single us out. So I want to make sure that they understand what that feels like. So I will single them out. And I will create a website. I will put their pictures on it. I will make them famous. I'll talk about them on the air. I will remind people of their phone numbers. And that's what I will do. Because these people are evil. There's something really, really wrong with sending out these letters. And do these government minions, do these government thugs think that these letters don't have impact when they say that they will put liens on your property? They will sell your property on the courthouse step. They will do these things? Do they think that these aren't threats? And for what? Baseless threats. Now, if they could say, Mr. Finelli, you know what? We have proof that you sold $100 to a person, $100 worth of material to a person in Missouri, and the sales tax is 8.3%, and you owe us $8.30 for unpaid sales tax. If they could do that, that would be different. But they can't, because it didn't happen. They have no basis. They have no grounds. They have no authority to do this. However, they are doing it, and it's not just to us. So I think we need to act.
Let's go back 35 years or so. We moved to Missouri, to our farm, about 35 years ago in March. And within a year of our arriving here, we get a notice from someone. I was thumbing through my computer and found that you have two businesses. And it went on and on and on. And she started saying that anything to do with horses was not legitimate.
Really?
Well, oh yeah, we can finish that after the break.
Let's talk about that. Really, anything you do with horses is not legitimate? Really?
Yeah, it's not a deductible business. In other words, you have to pay taxes on everything.
That's nonsense. You can have any kind of business you want, including a recipe business.
We had to go to the state legislature to get off that crap.
Well, I might have to do the same thing. Let's talk about it a little bit more when we come back. And then I've got some other medical questions about nursing homes and aspirins and visiting the elderly and helping them live longer. And steroids. Dr. Norm Shealy and I will be right back. Medical clearance from Dr. Norman Shealy to go pursue the state of Missouri's attack and respond. Dr. Shealy, you mentioned that 35 years ago they decided to fix their sights on your family, and the topic was horses, and that horses do not compromise a business that actually is viable in their eyes in terms of pursuing tax deductions and benefits of operating a horse-based business, which is absolute nonsense. They even have the proof of it. They have horse races. People even go to watch horses run around in a circle, and they bet on them. So, yeah, it is a viable business, and there are tax deductions. But
we felt forced to write every state representative we could, and we got a hearing in the legislature. And it turns out that at least half a dozen of the legislators were farmers. Mm-hmm. And after, a vigorous all-day hearing in Jefferson City, we were vindicated and, have never had that come up again. But it just shows you how evil these idiots, these self-ego bullshit people, excuse my language, are in government. They suck. I doubt any of them has ever had an honest day in their life.
Yeah. And they use words like, we're fighting for you. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. They're pickpockets. These people are pickpockets. I believe they are mentally defective. I believe that the people who are in office are mentally defective. And I believe that there's a culture, Dr. Shealy, where they form, the boss in one of these divisions will form a contest and say, I'm so glad you're all such hardworking state employees. I know you're overworked. I know the stress is unbelievable. I know that it's difficult, to get between coffee breaks, and you have so much work on your plate, which is all nonsense. The state employees hardly work at all. They really do. They're little people, and they talk about each other. And I mean, if you go in the elevator and you go in a state office building, you'll find out that, or even a county building, you'll find out that what they talk about is each other. They don't talk about important things. They don't talk about things that matter. They talk about each other and who's got the best donuts and how they get those donuts and we didn't get them, and nonsense. Well, these people, I believe, are put into these contests where their peer pressure is significant enough for them to come after the rest of us. And I can tell you that when we had our expo, I decided that I would go to Springfield, and because they demanded that I have a license. I had to have a license in order to have an expo. So I show up, and there's the gal. She's already got. I just show up unannounced, and there she is. She's got the Get Prepared Expo on her screen. She's already printed out page after page after page. She knows who the speakers are. She knows who the guests are. She knows who the exhibitors are. And she's demanding from me that I attack them and make them pay the Springfield license. She wants me to be her agent and do her work for her. And I told her absolutely not. I will not put their muzzle of their gun to our exhibitors' heads and make them pay a tax on behalf of the state. I will not be their agent. If they want to do it, they'll have to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing their work. But that's what they do. They give these people computers at their desks, and they're told, you will go find revenue, and this is the contest, and you want to beat Joe next to you and Bob next to him, and that's your job because this is important. We got to keep everybody safe. That's what they do. And I object to it. And I don't want them pushing our family around, and I will not allow it. So I am going to respond in kind, Dr. Shealy, and I'm looking forward to it. My adrenaline's rushing. I feel great. I can't wait to get more engaged into this fight with them because they're wrong. I don't like getting in fights, but when I'm right, I will not back down. That's just my nature. Can't help it. Dr. Shealy, so you won. You
We
prevailed,
won. We won.
and
We
what
never
was
heard
that
from
like?
the bitch again.
Dr. Shealy, nursing homes. You know, the last thing I want to do is end up in a nursing home. The last thing I want to do is put any member of my family in a nursing home, because I believe, well, there may be some cases where there's nothing a family can do that, well, I don't know if that's true, but maybe there's little they can do other than that. But what about nursing homes and dying quickly? Isn't there a correlation when someone goes into a nursing home, within a year they're dead?
I don't know that because I think it would depend on the broad spectrum of people who go there. But I will look it up.
Well, and what about when a nursing home seems in many cases is a warehouse. It's a warehouse for people who.
Yeah, that I agree.
Uh-huh. And how awful would it be to be in a warehouse? How awful would it be to once have a job?
It'd be far worse than dying.
And that's my concern. So what can we do if a person's in a nursing home to make that experience just a little bit better? Visit them, call them,
all day,
have dinner
every day.
with them. Right.
I don't think you can. There's anything you can do.
So, all right. So is our position then, if you can avoid putting a family member in a nursing home, avoid it at whatever costs? And I'll tell you what we've done. That need, was discussed many times. My father was very, very ill. He was man fell asleep at the wheel, crashed head on into him, and really messed up my dad's life for 10 years. And what we decided to do was we shut down our business, closed down our family computer business, and set up a nursing home, if you will, in our house. And we all were with my dad 24 hours a day for 10 years. We did, we were always there, cooking, cleaning with him, reading to him, talking to him, and we got him well. And we got him well. We got him from the point where he was had to be lifted out of bed with a crane in the family room to the point where he was able to be in a wheelchair, and got him from there to a walker, and got him from there to walking around. And so, it took the family. It took the entire family, including feeding him with a feeding tube into his stomach, all those kind of things. He had a halo on, screws into his head, to keep his head from moving. It was pretty intense. But
indeed, I've got the statistics.
Yes.
The median length of stay in a nursing home before death was 5 months. Average was longer at 14 months because a small number of study participants had very long lengths of stay. 65% died within 1 year, and 53% died within 6 months. So, you were right.
I've spent some time in nursing homes visiting friends and neighbors, and it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant for anybody. And one of the things that is unpleasant is the lack of care that I've seen, not in all nursing homes, but in some nursing homes. When my dad was being discharged from the hospital after like 5 months in surgical trauma intensive care, he was treated by the same people that treated Christopher Reeves at the University of Virginia Medical Center and in Charlottesville, Virginia. And he was discharged to a nursing home because they said that he would have to have this skilled care. They did not give him anything to drink in the nursing home for about 6 or 7 hours. And I did the absolute unthinkable thing. The worst thing that you can do to a nursing home, if you see lack of care, is to call 911. If you call 911, the nursing home gets a black eye that is just almost impossible to remove. But I could not get him the care that he needed. No one would pay attention to him. They were very interested in forms. They were very interested in filling out paperwork, but they were not interested in care. And normally I would never call 911, but I did. And I got him ambulanced right out of there and right back into the hospital and saved his life. So, you don't have to sit by and put up with things that you think are life-threatening. You don't, and I don't. So I just wanted to share that with the class. I've done some pretty extreme things to protect lives of people who just were unable to do that for themselves. Dr. Shealy, aspirin. I was reading a story about aspirin, and you hear that people with heart problems, heart issues, should take aspirin, like a quarter of an aspirin, or 81 milligrams per day, which would be the size of a baby aspirin. But if you read what's in baby aspirin, you might find that you take a regular aspirin and cut it into 4 pieces with one of those pill cutters, and you'll have the same, if you cut it carefully, you'll have the same dosage at less cost and less fillers in the aspirin product. But I was reading that aspirin 3 times a week reduces the breast cancer risk by 16%. Have you had any experience or done any research or have any information you can share with us about the relationship with aspirin and the reduction in the potential for breast cancer?
Well, first of all cancer has an inflammatory component. In other words, it looks like some kind of infection under the microscope. We'll finish after the break.
Fascinating, because we keep coming back to inflammation. Inflammation seems to be the root problem in a lot of these maladies. Fascinating. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. Class, Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. And if you'd like to get the same newsletter that I get, you can go to normshealy.com. normshealy.com, normshealy.com. And if you'd like to contact his office, 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. Dr. Shealy, we were talking about inflammation. We were talking about aspirin and the relationship between inflammation and disease.
Yes, every known disease has some degree of inflammation in it. And cancer is one of the worst. I mean, I can tell you, in medical school, in pathology, especially brain pathology, I had great difficulty distinguishing between cancer and just a massive infection. And so we know that whatever causes the inflammation, and there must be many, many, many different causes, including Roundup, and then it starts an inflammatory process which at a certain stage then morphs or changes into actual malignancy, which makes it even worse than an active infection. So anti-inflammatory things like aspirin may cut down on the risk of a normal, if you will, inflammatory response moving into cancer. It also does significantly decrease the risk of stroke and heart attack.
So there are many medical professionals who, over the years, have, in writing and in person, have recommended to their patients and their readers this quarter of an aspirin per day. What are your thoughts about doing that, just as a regimen for someone, let's say, 40 years old or older, or what age would it be advisable for?
Well, somewhere between 40 and 50 is the age at which most people begin to have more problems. Now, nobody has done a study to say whether any of the natural herbal anti-inflammatories, such as turmeric, will work as well as aspirin. Nobody's going to pay for that study even, therefore it probably never will be done. But personally, I think it's a good idea to start thinking about it somewhere between age 40 and 50.
Okay. So is that 1/4 of one 325 milligram standard regular aspirin per day? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what they're talking about. Now, to my knowledge, no one has compared that with doing one aspirin twice a day even, or once a day even, as to whether the results would be even better. But, there are risks with aspirin. The biggest risk is bleeding from the stomach.
Okay, and how do we know, Dr. Shealy, if we are bleeding from the stomach?
Most people don't know.
Would we feel stomach discomfort?
Sometimes a little discomfort or diarrhea. If you happen to look at it, if the stool is black instead of brown, then there's probably blood in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, if someone has black stool, is that something that, do you look at it for a day, or do you say, black stool, got to go to the emergency room or see the doctor or call somebody right now? How urgent is...
I would go that day.
Okay, very good. Dr. Shealy, steroids. I have been prescribed steroids and as a course of treatment. I got to tell you that I'm starving all the time. I am racing around, and it's a very strange feeling. I feel like as if I've had 6 espresso coffees. I'm just on the verge of stuttering, and I'm hungry all the time. So, for example, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, I'm wide awake, I'm thinking about 7 things at one time. However, I can't complete one of them. I'm thinking about 7 things. My mind is racing. I'm starving, and I'll have dinner, and then about 15 minutes later, I'll have another dinner, and then about 15 minutes later, I'll have some fruit, an orange,
and
then a banana, and then 6 pounds. I've gained 6 pounds in a couple of weeks, and well, you wouldn't recognize me. So I'm on this steroid prescription, and Dr. Shealy, and I cannot pass food. I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm starving, and I'll have 2 or 3 meals. For dinner, I'll have 2 or 3 meals. For breakfast, I'll have 2 or 3 meals. For lunch, I'll have 2 or 3 meals, and then I'll eat in between meals. I'm starving all the time. I'm running around like crazy, and I can't accomplish anything. I mean, I am wired. I feel like I am overdosed on caffeine, and I don't like it. However, I think this is the course that I'm probably going to have to stay with until I'm done with it. But is this typical?
Absolutely typical.
Gosh,
it's an horrendous stimulant, and of course that's one of the reasons that I suggested you take DHEA to help calm down some of the negative effects of the steroids.
Mm-hmm. And I am doing that, and Earth Bliss as well. And I'm also on Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula 3 times a day. And I got to tell you, I was feeling absolutely terrible, and I really don't want to talk about my condition, but it was pretty significant. And I'm on the mend. I'm getting better every day. My voice is getting stronger. And there was a point, Dr. Shealy, when I had to take a couple weeks off from radio. I did not have the lung power, literally, to broadcast. Right. And now, and now I can do it. So John Statmiller called me, and he said, "So what happened?" I said, "Well, I think I was down to 5%, meaning I was 5% here, not 95% here. I mean 5% here. Now I think I'm like 55, 60% here." And I've gained weight, and I guess it looks like I'm maybe a couple months pregnant. I hope this little tiny bump of a beach ball that I have as a result of this nonstop eating will go away. Is that possible? Will I get back to normal, Dr. Shealy, when I stop this?
It could take you 3 to 6 months.
Uh-huh.
But,
okay.
Yes.
All right. And what is happening to me? Why am I so wired? What is going on in my? Is this like a nonstop full tilt, as aggressive as you can get, adrenaline rush? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, it's actually, yes, to some extent it is that, but it's a different kind of energy, because most of the time there's a lot more feeling of anxiety, worry with adrenaline, but with the cortisone, it just is 24-hour stimulus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when I'm done with this course, Dr. Shealy, am I just going to hibernate for a couple months?
yeah, it's going to take you at least 3 months once you're off the steroid to readjust to normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't. I mean, if you don't have to do it, I certainly would. I would not recommend feeling like this to anyone. It literally. I remember going to, when we lived in Virginia, going to the supermarket and getting some Medaglia d'Oro, an Italian espresso coffee, and I remember using espresso coffee in the, making coffee as if it were just regular coffee. And the caffeine has got to be many times more. And I remember, almost getting to the point where I was stuttering from drinking multiple cups of espresso, but not little tiny demi-tasse cups. I'm talking about full-size cups of espresso, as if you, that's what I feel like all the time right now. Absolutely wired. And but my ability to concentrate, it's gone. It got up and left. I wanted to build a fence last night in my mind. So 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm drawing pictures on a pad, and I'm called a water gap fence. So what do you do when you have a fence that's over a creek, and the creek rises, and then logs and trees and rip out your fence? So how do you make a fence that survives that? And I don't want to build one that lasts 6 months. I want to build one that lasts from now on. And so I'm drawing this picture, and it's taking me forever. And I'm thinking, this is elementary stuff. Why is it taking me so long? And why is it taking me so long to figure out the exact angle and frame and how I'm going to weld up this and fabricate this solar panel array? I'm building an array. It's like 51 feet long, 13 feet high. I've got the steel. All I have to do is figure out the angles, and I'm drawing pictures, and it's taking me forever. This is elementary stuff. Is Dr. Shealy, is that typical of your mind racing around?
No, it is typical of steroids. Way back in the dark ages of 1956 to 57, when I was interning, admitted to the hospital one night was a man in his late 20s who was dying of a combination of staphylococcus and yeast abscesses all over his body. He had been on, in those days it was just cortisone, for 2 years to treat rheumatoid arthritis, and he was dying of the complications from having been on that stuff for 2 years. That's how serious it is. It's interesting. It both helps to overcome a weak immune system, but it weakens your immune system for other infections.
Mm-hmm. So someone who's taking it like I am, you got to be really careful where you go and what you do and what you eat and what you're exposed to, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so what about D3, Dr. Shealy? I've kept up with my D3, 50,000 units a week. Is that enough?
Well, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is there anything else I should be doing? Because your youth formula has a significant amount of vitamin C in it. And I remember back in the 1950s and the 1960s, when I had a cold or didn't runny nose, my dad would say vitamin C, vitamin C, vitamin C, orange juice, vitamin C. And that was kind of what you did back then. And there's no change, is there, Dr. Shealy? Still vitamin C is great, right?
It is. No, it's a superb. But as you know, we often give 50, 75, or 100 grams of vitamin C IV to help strengthen the immune system.
Now, Dr. Shealy, I've had a Myers cocktail at your clinic. Is that something that you would recommend that I continue doing maybe once a week or at some frequency while I'm on this course?
No, I think I don't know that it would counteract the effects of the prednisone.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do it, but I can't. I don't have enough information that says it would help counteract that hyper situation that cortisol is causing.
Well, I'm more concerned not about the effects of the cortisone, but I'm more concerned about the weakening of the immune system.
Well, that's it is a double bind, isn't it? I mean,
mm-hmm. Yes.
How much longer are you supposed to be on it?
Well, I'm on my taper down. I was on a massive dose, 60 milligrams a day for 2 weeks. I'm in the second week of 40 milligrams. Next week it's 10 milligrams, and I taper down, and then I'm done. So I'm like almost 2/3 done.
Okay, let's say towards the end, maybe the last day when you're taking that, it might be worthwhile to do a Myers cocktail with a big dose of C.
Great. And Dr. Shealy, you and I did a broadcast about the Myers cocktail, and it's an intravenous infusion of 50 or more grams, 50 or more grams of vitamin C and magnesium and some B vitamins. And to me, it is the fountain of youth. Have you ever found anyone who did not find it to be like the fountain of youth?
Yeah, a lot of people, they can't see anything they can feel. On the other hand,
really?
As far as protection, I've never seen anybody have a negative reaction to it.
Wow. I can't imagine. After I had it, I was running around Sam's Club and talking to the pharmacists, telling them, "You don't believe this is unbelievable." Just the feeling. I even called our son up and said, "Get ready. I'm younger. Get ready because when we get home, I got a lot of stuff we're going to do." And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Dr. Shealy, I was looking at magnets last night on the internet. Rare earth magnets, very, very strong physical magnets, not electromagnets, but permanent magnets. And you can buy these magnets from China, and there are all kinds of uses for them, and I've got some uses for them on the farm. I want to drill out some, the oil drain plugs. I want to drill them out and put these cylindrical magnets, very strong magnets that can withstand 300-degree temperatures before degradation to attract metal particles that are in the engine oil and the transmission oil and lubricating oils of these machines that we have here, so that they'll last longer. And I was thinking, what about magnets for other purposes in the body? So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on permanent magnets? Is there a use for them that you like?
Yes. They actually calm the nervous system and the brain. There's a company called Magnetico Sleep. Magnetico Sleep was developed by a dentist from Canada who actually a couple of years ago moved to Las Vegas, and they're still in business. They make mattresses that have something like, if I remember correctly, 7,000 Gauss of magnetic energy. Mm-hmm. And I was at a meeting some years ago where they had an exhibit, and I just sat down on this mattress, and I felt, ooh, wow, calm. Mm-hmm. So he donated 6 of those to me to do a research study on it, and I did that. And first of all, the number one thing it does is lower your blood pressure. It's phenomenal. Within a minute or two of lying down on this mattress, blood pressure will become normal.
And is it the effect of the magnetism on the electrons swirling around within our body? Do we know what it is?
As far as we know. I've got some more information coming.
Huh. Fascinating. Let's talk a little bit more about these magnets, permanent magnets in the body, with Dr. Norman Shealy when we come back. Dr. Shealy's with us. NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. Dr. Shealy, is there anything that you'd like to share with us before we finish up on these permanent magnets? How are you doing?
Well, let's finish that first. I did a lot of studies where we actually looked at the computerized EEG. When you lie down on the Magnetico Sleep mattress, the EEG goes to very deep brain relaxation. The center of the brain is in remarkable deep, as deep as you could. It looks as if you've been in the deepest state of sleep. So it not only lowers blood pressure, but it does rest the brain. That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And for, a lot of us here at USA Prepares, Dr. Shealy, are do-it-yourselfers. Is there a do-it-yourself thought about this? Are we orienting these magnets north and south, meaning north toward the headboard and south toward the footboard? Or are they north and south alternating, or are they east and west? Or what are they? Do you have a feel for that?
Well, they are certainly magnets. You have to be careful not to put your credit card or wallet down on it because it can erase them. I don't know the other answer to your question. I did not look at that. Like ordinarily we recommend that people, if possible, sleep with the head towards the north. That's supposed to enhance the ability of the brain to recover. But I don't know how the magnets are arranged in this matchstick. It weighs 150 pounds.
Wow. So there is significant metal in that mattress for it to, I would expect.
Oh, yes, it is. They are metal magnets, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned north and south. The mattress that Mrs. Finelli and I have oriented is exactly that. It is north and south. North, headboard north. And the wiring in the wall, because, according to code, the National Electric Code, you have to have an outlet every 6 feet typically on a wall. So there's wiring that runs right next to the headboard. However, ours is in metal conduit.
Good. In
the bedroom. So, and I just wanted to mention that to the class that, you can do that, and maybe you want to shield or detect whether there is electricity running through your wires. And by the way, if there is no load on that circuit, meaning if you've got wiring in the wall and there is no load, no clock, no wall charger, nothing plugged in, there is no magnetism on that wire. So if nothing's plugged in, there's no electromagnetism. So you can, if you unplug everything, unless it goes into another room and something's plugged in downstream on that circuit, on that very same circuit, then there's no concern for that particular wire next to your headboard. But so the best orientation, as I understand it from what you just said, Dr. Shealy, is headboard toward the north, footboard toward the south. Mm-hmm. And that would be for the best sleep. And I've read over the years, just raise the footboard a little bit, raise the headboard a little bit, just put a little tiny block of wood under it. Is there any reason to do that, Dr. Shealy? So that
I don't think for the average person that helps anything, won't harm anything either.
Okay. And let's see, we talked about steroids. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that we haven't covered, Dr. Shealy, in this broadcast?
No, I think always the single most important thing is you are responsible for your health. I am not. I can't breathe for you. I can't eat for you. I can't make you have good health habits. You are responsible.
And that's a very good point. And what about following doctor's recommendations? Dr. Shealy, do you find that not everybody...
Well, I have to say that everybody has to decide that on their own.
Yeah. But it might be a good idea if your doctor is Dr. Norman Shealy, it might be a really good idea to follow his advice. I do, and it works. Dr. Shealy, I love you, and I want to thank you for taking such wonderful care of me.
Well,
and being on this broadcast.
We are compatible.
See you next week, Dr. Shealy.